The all-time war between Xbox and PlayStation has been an ongoing debate for lots of years. However, as technology advances and prices for consoles rise, the true debate should be whether or not to stick with consoles. Today, I will show you why everyone that plays video games should transition to PC gaming rather than console gaming. There are many different reasons as to why people should start considering PCs instead of consoles, specifically for the more hardcore gamers. Not only is performance guaranteed to be better for PC gaming, the price will eventually be a lot less, and the added comfort of playing with a mouse and keyboard is simply way better than any controller. For these reasons, I believe everyone should put away the old consoles or start building their dream computers. To start off, performance is something we all look at whenever making a decision between what gaming rig to buy. When it comes to performance comparison, people often compare the chips made by AMD to the current chips for the base model of the PlayStation 5, which is currently the better console when it comes to either Xbox or PlayStation. It is mentioned in the article how the PS5 specs compare to high-end PCs by Mohammed Usaid. PS5's CPU is a custom chip with 8 Zen 2 cores running at 3.5 GHz, all equipped with hyper-threading that totals it up to a logical 16 cores. A competitive CPU of choice would be the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, a chip capable of reaching a max speed of 4.4 GHz in all of its Zen 2 cores. This comparison already makes it clear that the computer chips are faster than the ones installed at PS5 by 1 whole gigahertz, that is, at its base core level. It is even worth noting that the CPU that is being compared to the one of the PS5 was released in 2019. As a better comparison, we could look at AMD's Ryzen 7 9700X, which was recently released in November of this year. This chip has a base clock of 3.8 GHz as opposed to the 3.5 of the PS5 at base clock and can boost up to 5.5 GHz. When it comes to comparison of frames per second, the article CPU Benchmarks and Hierarchy 2024 CPU Rankings by Paul Alcorn perfectly explains the performance of the current 9000 series of the chip by AMD, showing a whopping average of 116 to 160 frames per second when playing video games at 1080p resolution in all ultra settings, that is, the highest settings resolution you can play on, compared to the PS5's performance that is advertised at around 120 frames per second. The difference may not seem big at first, however, this is considering the settings of the game being played. It is mentioned in the article the PS5 Pro is surprisingly efficient, 30% performance uplift when operating at nearly the same power draw as the base PS5 by Arnold Klotz. Elden Ring saw the PS5 Pro operating at virtually identical power draw to the PS5 Slim. In one instance of the video, the Pro model operated at 214.1 watts of power consumption, the PS5 Slim model at 216, the PS5 launch model at 201.3. Frame rates were inevitably much higher in the Pro, operating at around 52 frames per second, the PS5 Slim at around 40, and the PS5 base model at around 37 frames per second. This is only mentioning the frame rates of the newer models of the PS5 and mentions a 30% decrease of performance for the base model, which indicates that would run in certain games at around 40 frames per second constantly. Compared to what the average CPU for a PC would provide, the evidence is clear that performance on PC is simply more dominant. Now let's talk about the price to performance. In the article, PS5 Price, How Much is a PS5 by Sammy Barker, they mention there are two price points for the PS5 in the United States. The PS5 Digital Edition costs about $399.99, while the PS5 non-digital edition, meaning you can put your disc in, costs about $500. Compared to what is mentioned in the same benchmarking article by Paul Alcorn, where a way better performing CPU would cost around $300, or you could go with a more affordable option of the Ryzen 7 3700X, which is directly comparable to the PS5 chips, which would run you about $100 to $150 depending on where you get it, and around $400 to $600 for a whole PC with that CPU performance. Although newer CPUs that would run infinitely faster than a PS5 and more expensive, the option of sticking with a similar price point still exists, where you will still get more performance for your buck. It is also worth mentioning that the provided price points are for the base model of the PS5, and the PS5 Pro could run you up to like $700. It is also worth noting that when you go with a console like a PS5 or an Xbox, you do have to buy additional things like controllers or games or additional storage, as well as online play memberships in order to play with your friends. When it comes to PC gaming, online game is entirely free. You can play with as many friends as you want, and you also already, a lot of PCs come with a base mouse and keyboard model that does save some money in the long run. It is evident that PC gaming is way better than consoles, and everyone that is even a little bit of a gamer should definitely consider making the switch as soon as possible. From performance in a variety of games, to price over time, and even comfort when playing, having a PC is simply the better option for most users.